They get it to Fisher. He scores! Derek Fisher scores!
But on the Hooper's log, we don't blink.
All I have in this world is a pistol and a promise, a fistful of dollars.
Hall's got to step in, Smith's one move, and counts on the foul. He beat LeBron James. That's a three. How about that? It steps over Teron Lue.
For NBALead.com and for all of 2017.
Irving spins, puts up the shot. It's good! Kyrie Irving with 3.4 remaining.
You're inside the Hooper's log.
Irving and Curry, one-on-one. Irving puts it up. It's good! Kyrie Irving from downtown! And the Cavaliers by 3.
Now here's your host, Chris Morrison, a.k.a. Simo Buckets.
Happy New Year, everybody. It is 2017. Yes, we're here on the Hooper's Log today here for episode 17, fittingly enough, for the first episode of the new year. Here on episode 17, again, Tuesday. For those of you on the live broadcast watching, it is Monday, I got to get used to that. It is January 2nd, 2017. I got to get used to saying that here for Monday. For those of you on the Periscope, for those of you on the Facebook, and for those of you watching through YouTube, if that is available for us here, check it out there. And also on iTunes, Stitcher, on NBALead.com. That's where we're always at here on the show. And it's exciting. We got Mark back. We're going to have Scoop Jackson on the show today. It's going to be quite a show. We're going to talk some CBA. We're going to talk a lot of things just kind of down and dirty when it comes to the business portion of the NBA. But we have topics to talk about today on the show, and we're going to get those ready here as soon as we can. But just wanted to fill you in. Again, Happy New Year. I just got done watching that what would you call it, those New Year's Day games, the Rose Bowl. I think it just finished like 5 minutes ago. In all actuality, that was about a 9-hour football game. So I got done watching that. That was a good game for sure. Obviously, the highest scoring Rose Bowl of all time. USC pulled it out, 52-49 over Sandusky State. Yeah, I said that. And so we got quite a show for you today. I got to talk about some things, and what James Harden did on New Year's Eve was crazy. But before we do, we got to let Kevin Hart introduce us on the show. Kevin Hart, let's get it started. Let's start off 2017 the right way, shall we?
All right. We're going to learn today.
There's this conversation going around the league right now about guys who are superstars and not and whatnot. And there were definitely some superstar, legendary performances as of late when it comes to the NBA. You got guys like Isaiah Thomas who put up 52 points a couple of nights ago, about a week ago. You got a guy in CP3 who, let's be honest, when he's off the court, the Clippers don't look the same. The Clippers look like garbage. The Clippers look like just a pedestrian basketball team. And then you got a guy in James Harden. And let me just gush over James Harden. I was wrong from the get-go that this guy is a nobody. I mean, not from the standpoint he's a nobody, but from the standpoint of that he was, quote-unquote, overrated. Now, what he did on New Year's Eve, 53 points, 17 rebounds, if I'm not mistaken, or 16 assists, whatever. It doesn't matter. A triple-double, it was a 103 scale on the wiper-worthy performance scale. Now, a really good wiper-worthy performance is like 65, 70. James Harden had a 103. Now, to put that into perspective, Kobe Bryant, when he scored 81, his wiper-worthy performance scale was at like a 96 or something like that. And James Harden eclipsed that. Just fathom that for a moment. This was, in my opinion, the most impressive triple-double in NBA history from the standpoint of a 50, 15, and 15, the only time it's ever happened in NBA history. Now, people are all up in arms about who's a superstar in the NBA and who's not and what's going on and this, that, and the third. But here's my thing. Isaiah Thomas is not a superstar. Why? He had 52 points in that game, right? One of only 4 or 5 Boston Celtics to ever do so in the Garden. Unbelievable. A great performance nonetheless. Definitely clutch. He had 29 points in the fourth quarter. Definitely sensational game. But overall, that's all he had. All he had was 52. It's kind of like when Klay Thompson went off for 60 in, 29 minutes? That's all he had was 60 points. He had nothing else. He had 1 rebound and two assists? He had nothing. James Harden, he had 53 points, 15-plus rebounds, and 15-plus assists. And I was watching the highlights of that game, actually, earlier on today, And let me tell you something. That's a bad man. Like that is just, I mean, people talk about Russell Westbrook, but James Harden, like that guy is just, he's the best player in the NBA right now. I mean, you talk about LeBron James, he's the best player talent-wise. Kevin Durant's more talented than James Harden. But if I were to make a top 10 list as of right now, James Harden's number 3. I mean, when it comes to talent, this guy is an offensive juggernaut. And and it's crazy is I was playing 2K the other day, and I was playing against the old Allen Iverson team with the Philadelphia 76ers the year they went to the NBA championship. And I'm telling you, James Harden's the modern day Allen Iverson offensively. Now, hustle and defense, no. But when you talk about a guy like James Harden and what he can do on the offensive side of the floor, it is absolutely sensational. There's nothing, there's no way around it. There's no way to tiptoe around it. This guy is the best player on the planet when it comes to the offensive side of the floor at the guard position. Whether it's 2 guard, whether it's 1 guard, people are debating whether he's a point guard or a shooting guard. I don't care. James Harden is ridiculous offensively. Now, that being said, yes, he's a superstar, but this conversation about superstars just needs to slow its roll. There are 8 guys in the NBA right now you can just rattle off the top of your brain as superstars in the NBA. LeBron James, Kevin Durant, James Harden, Steph Curry, Russell Westbrook, Anthony Davis, DeMarcus Cousins, and those are only 7, I believe. But you can rattle off maybe a couple more. I say Kyrie Irving. I say CP3. Maybe there's one other guy that I'm definitely missing. But Kawhi Leonard, that's the guy. I mean, those are the 10 guys, in my opinion, right there. I mean, you rattle them off, and there you go. And people start talking about how Isaiah Thomas is a superstar, and then this guy's a superstar, and that guy. Look, Isaiah Thomas is a star. Don't get me wrong. But, look, this is when you got to start asking the question, is he better than John Wall? Is he better than CP3? Is he better than Kyrie Irving? Is he better than Russell Westbrook? Is he better than Curry? No, he's not. Isaiah Thomas is sensational. Literally, as you can see this video right here, I live literally a mile away from where Isaiah Thomas went to school in high school and where he almost darn near won the state championship scoring 50-plus points for Curtis High. I live right down the road from that, right down the road. And I love Isaiah Thomas, but he's not a superstar. Is he a star? Absolutely, most definitely, and write it up. He's the guy. But is he in the same class as guys like DeMar? Look, here's my thing. If you can put a guy in the same conversation as Anthony Davis or LeBron James or Kevin Durant, and you can do it without laughing, then that's when they're a superstar. And Isaiah Thomas, I can't say Isaiah Thomas is on the same level as Anthony Davis. I'm sorry. That's just not happening. Anthony Davis in February of 2016 had a 59-point, 20-rebound game, and that was just a random game in February. That's a superstar. Kevin Durant, he averages 20 when he's sleeping, and his REM sleep is at the highest point. When Kevin Durant is dreaming, he's scoring 20. That's how good this guy is. LeBron James, you don't even know. We don't need to go any further with LeBron James. We know he's one of the greatest players of all time. And then you go into guys like CP3, which in my opinion is a superstar, just because of the fact that he literally carries everything that the Clippers are doing. Have you seen them lately? They've become a pedestrian team without him. They're garbage without him. In fact, they've been getting their butt kicked without him. Didn't the Rockets score 140 points on them in regulation? That's just all you need to know about CP3 and his importance to the team. That's how big of a deal this guy is. I would put him in as a superstar. That's the kind of stuff when you talk about a superstar that is evident. And then in that game where I just mentioned, where the Rockets beat the Clippers, 140-116, James Harden had another triple-double. This guy is insane right now. And in my opinion, and I've said this multiple times, MVP of the league. Now, again, Russell Westbrook averages a triple-double, and he gets just about as many more points and whatnot and wins as James Harden. Then we have a debate. And in my opinion, if Russell Westbrook averages a triple-double and James Harden keeps doing what he's doing, maybe not averaging a triple-double, but being that important to his team, and both these teams go to the playoffs at a relatively high clip with where they're at, I just say give him co-MVP. Because at this point, I'm telling you, Westbrook is ridiculous. James Harden, what he just did, just solidified the fact that he is right now the best player in the game at the guard position. It's not even a debate. It's getting to that point where it's like, good Lord, you can't even knock James Harden for anything he's doing anymore. It's just that impressive. So I wanted to get that out of the way, and I wanted to say those things before I get to some quick headlines. Speaking of LeBron James and how he's a superstar, he turned 32 a couple of days ago. His birthday's right at the end of the year. He just turned 32, and let me tell you something. He's 8th all-time in scoring. Is he on the back end of his prime? I mean, we don't know. Look at what he's done the last couple of years in the finals. I don't know. Maybe LeBron can still average 40, 11, and 10 in the finals. I don't know, because he did it the last 2 years. Who's to say he can't still? So he turned 32. He's tied for 8. He's 8th all-time in scoring. Think about that. 8th all-time in scoring, and he's only 32. Just that should blow your mind all by itself. So there's that. Oh, and another thing, DeMar DeRozan also is now the all-time leading scorer in Toronto Raptors history with that storied franchise. You got guys like Vince Carter. You got guys like Chris Bosh. They've got players, and you got guys like Tracy McGrady who, are up for the Hall of Fame. I mean, you got guys in that category for the Raptors that are sensational, and DeMar DeRozan is now the all-time leading scorer there. We haven't seen Mark in a long time. Mark, it's been some time. How have the holidays been for you, bud?
What's going on, man? Things have been crazy. Holidays are great. The kids got a bunch of toys, which I had to put said toys together, which is never fun, but it's a challenge, and I go through it every year. But it was good though. It's been good. I'm glad to have it behind us though, and get towards New Year.
And we're at the time of year where conference play and college basketball is getting geared up. You got key NBA games coming up. You got real competition coming in for the NBA. It has been absolutely sensational here over the last week or so. And granted, I know football has been going crazy. Obviously, the Rose Bowl and other games. And let me tell you something, Mark. Look, hey, I know you've been working a lot of football games, but I can tell you something. If you were in that truck watching Clemson and Ohio State, I don't know how hard it would be. That was one of the worst football games I've ever seen. Clemson just put their foot on the throat of Ohio State that night.
And this is the Ohio State team that everybody was talking about was the best and was underrated, and I never bought into it. And clearly, Clemson, God, it was awful. I was at home. I was enjoying that game. It was crazy. I expected Clemson to win, but I didn't expect it to be like that.
Yeah. No, I didn't either. And the UW-Alabama game, that was actually what I expected living out here in the Pacific Northwest. Everyone was like, oh, UW's going to win. I'm like, no. Get off your legal reefer. That's not going to happen. Let's just stop with the noise. It's not going to happen. They lost. It exactly happened the way I thought it was going to happen. UW came out quick, and then it ended. But then, guess what? All top 3 Big Ten teams lost their bowl games, so they weren't all qualified to be
there were some things in that Alabama game that I thought that Alabama was not as good as everyone thought they were going to be. Their O-line got kind of destroyed, which is weird. I thought they'd play better than that. But lucky for them, their defense has about like 10 NFL players on it, so they're all right.
I mean, they're pretty much an all NFL. I bet you that Bama team right now could beat the Cleveland Browns. I mean, that's how bad.
Likely. Yeah.
I mean, that's how bad it is. But anyway, let's get on to the other side. We got Scoop Jackson to talk to here on the Hoopers Log. We'll be back on the other end.
NBA Lead will be your ultimate destination for up-to-the-moment expert commentary on all trending NBA topics and headlines. The digital broadcast network will offer hours of live content, plus more than hundreds of on-demand videos each week. It provides news, highlights, live look-ins, our own analysis, music, and conversations from around the NBA world. Moving at the speed of Twitter, it pushes from headline to headline, topic to topic. When all said and done, NBA Lead will bring the fans what they want, when they want. NBA Lead, for the fans, by the fans. How would you like to get all of your favorite team's merchandise delivered straight to your doorstep? Check out fanessentials.net. All you do is pick your favorite sports team, and every month you get your team's gear shipped straight to your door. They find the sports gear so you don't have to. Each fan box comes packed full with some amazing gear, and it makes a great gift idea for any sports fan. Prices start at just $34.99. Visit fanessentials.net and use promo code NBA Lead at checkout for 15% off your first month. Visit fanessentials.net to get all the essentials you need.
Do you want me to go ahead and call him?
Yeah, that sounds good.
All right. Stand by. Let me get him on. I think we have his number in there somewhere. There we go.
His number is in the
I saw it. I found it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't want to say it since we're, streaming to a bunch of people.
Yeah, right.
I think he'd be upset.
Oh, yeah. James Harden just got his 9th triple-double of the season. Good Lord.
All right, we're calling him.
Hello? Hello?
Hi, is this Scoop?
Yeah, it is.
Hey, this is Chris Morrison coming to you for the Hoopers log from NBALead.com.
Hey, man, what's happening? How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. We're excited to talk to you today.
Oh, cool. That's good. I'm excited, too.
Yeah, so this is how it's going to go. Right now, we just called you through Skype, and what we're going to do is we're going to go through our key games and break those down real quick, and then I'll introduce you. And then we'll ask you what you've been up to. What have you been up to these days? I know you were heavy in the mainstream media with the NBA in the late '90s and mid 2000s. I know you were deep in that, but I haven't seen you around as much lately. What you up to these days?
No, I'm still a senior writer for ESPN. I've been
Okay,
to ESPN for 13 years now.
Yeah, I figured you were still there. I just didn't know if you were still doing because I know you were part of the Jim Rome show. I know you were doing a whole bunch of other things.
Right. No. I went from I went from 2 years ago. I was went from ESPN senior writer at .com to senior writer for SportsCenter. So I wanted to
All right.
I'm doing SportsCenter stuff now. So it's been pretty cool.
That's awesome, man. I'm glad to hear. Well, hey, what we're gonna do is we're gonna kind of put you on hold for a second, and then what we're gonna do is we're gonna introduce you, and we'll get you on the show, and we'll have a solid conversation. How about that?
Cool. I appreciate that. That sounds good.
All right, man.
Here we go.
NBA Lead update on the latest key games and whiteboard-worthy performances throughout the league.
On Wednesday, December 28, 2016, the Golden State Warriors beat the Toronto Raptors 121 to 111. On Thursday, December 29, 2016, Memphis destroyed Oklahoma City 114 to 80. Cleveland beat Boston 124 to 118. On Friday, December 30th, 2016, the Houston Rockets beat the Los Angeles Clippers 140 to 116. And on Saturday, December 31st, 2016, the Cleveland Cavaliers beat the Charlotte Hornets 121 to 109. Houston beat the Knicks 129 to 122 with James Harden's insane stat line that we just mentioned in the monologue. And then the Oklahoma City Thunder bounced back and beat the Clippers 114 to 88. Those are your key games and your wiper-worthy performances. There's so many to get to, but the top 5 wiper-worthy performances for Week 10 are up on NBALead.com. Go check those out now. Welcome on back to the show, everybody. Episode 17 here on the Hoopers log for NBALead.com for Tuesday, January 3rd, 2017. We're here with our main man, Scoop Jackson, a decorated journalist at ESPN.com. Still going strong. Scoop, how long you been in the business now?
Oh, man, I've been in the business since, when did we start Slam Magazine? It was 92 maybe. Yeah, so it's been a minute.
Yeah,
I've probably been, let's say officially, because I graduated grad school in 91, so I've been in the business for 25 years now.
Yeah, I looked up you went to Xavier, right?
Right, went to Xavier University in New Orleans for undergrad, and then 2 years upon graduation, went to Howard University to attain my master's in Washington, D.C.
And then you've been a part of ESPN for, man, what? You said 13 years?
13 years. Came in 1994. Yeah, 94.
Yeah.
In ESPN in 94.
Nice.
Not 94. Yeah, I'm sorry. I came to ESPN in 2005.
Gotcha.
Right. 94 is when we started Slam. Right.
But you've been in the business. You've been around. You know what's up.
Yeah, I kind of. I mean, that's part of the thing. It's funny, man. I get asked all the time by especially college kids and high school kids,
Yeah.
you know. So do you know, so and so, or do you know all the athletes? I'm like, yeah, it's part of the job. You know, if you don't know them, then you're doing something wrong. You know,
Exactly.
and they don't get it. You know, so yeah, I mean, I being in the game for 20-some years, I should know something. if I don't,
for real.
I'm not doing my job right. Exactly.
Right? Yeah. Speaking of with how long you've been in the job, and you've done, I've seen some of your work. It's sensational, by the way.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And knowing with how long you've been in the job and what you've seen throughout the league for, like you said, for 25, 30, and just going on with just watching it as a kid, even as yourself, what have you noticed through your work, through time from when you started to now, when it comes to the culture of the NBA? What have you noticed that has changed the most over time?
I think the first thing that stands out is, and this is a dual answer, power management and player leverage. Of course, there's been a change of ownership. I think the fact that you have athletes that are becoming primary owners of sports franchises, and particularly in the NBA with Magic Johnson.
Yeah.
Having his stake in the Lakers for all those years and not transferring that over to the Dodgers and ascertaining the power that he's been able to have, and then Michael Jordan becoming the primary owner of Charlotte Hornets. That's something that didn't exist. Hell, they didn't even exist, 10 years ago. So, basically when I was coming up as a kid, that was something that was unforeseen. I remember when the two brothers, Peter Bino and I forgot the other brother's name, who took claim over the Denver Nuggets, I think it was in the 90s. That was a landmark move back then to have, African-American owners, and now to see that, players put in themselves position to, have positions of power, executive positions of power is the first thing that I've seen, transform over time. And then, you look at the leverage the players have and what they've been able to exercise within the rules of every collective bargaining agreement.
Yeah.
Where especially in the NBA, where, a lot of people aren't comfortable with that, but they are deciding where they want to go. It's like what Kurt Flood fought for. When they Major League Baseball, when you become a free agent, now they're exercising that right, and they have more leverage and more power than they did before. So I've definitely seen those changes go on. But at the same time, I've also seen, sports become, and when I say $1 billion business, I'm talking about where $1 billion is the norm.
Yes.
Billion is about the low end, and that's not for players. That's for just team ownership. So, when you're coming up and you're looking at, teams in the 70s, that were not looked at as powerhouse teams, teams that you didn't think were going to make it, teams you wonder how long they're going to be able to stay alive. The Los Angeles Clippers are a classic example of a team that had been teetering on, being extinct, being, reduced to the CBA, to the laughing stock where Sports Illustrated put them as the worst franchise in sports history.
Yeah.
To being sold for $2 billion.
Yeah.
So you've watched those kind of changes, and $2 billion for the Clippers is the norm.
Yeah.
It's
sensational.
Those type of changes I've seen, and I've witnessed over the last 20 some odd years that I've been doing this, and those are the things that come to the mind in the forefront. I'm pretty sure, we had long and really got to sit down and talk. There'll be other things, but at the top, those are the first things, because those are the most, those to me are the most noticeable. Those are the ones that stick out at you.
I bet the one thing as well that I've noticed over the last, I've been doing this for about 3 years now, and I think the one thing I've noticed over these 3 years that stepping away from being the fan and being the guy who just kind of casually watches and does it, and then really who's just absolutely, like you have, just dove in or dive right into all of it, like the players and the mentality and the business and the everything. I think the one thing I've noticed too, and this might just me being a little bit older and looking at the NBA from the past is a little different, but guys from the early 2000s and the 90s compared to today, I don't hear as much bickering about, respect and refs. I mean, granted, we're all going to bicker about the refs, but when it comes to like the difference in how the bickering occurs, it's like, to me, it's like, look, the CBA is about to get to like what, or excuse me, the cap is going to get to about 120 mil this next summer coming up. And
Right.
you got players sitting here asking for more respect. I'm like, how much more respect do you need when your wallet book's about to be $8 million a year on average for most players in the league?
Yeah, but that is true. But at the same time, we can't fall into that false narrative that the players are the only one gaining money.
That's true.
There's never been in the history of professional sports, especially in the NBA, owners going broke by paying players. That doesn't happen. So, we have to keep in mind that, yes, the players are, the base salary is about to increase. The way their contract is about to, monetarily increase is about to be something done to a level we haven't seen before. But let's not fall into the trap of believing the percentage of money that the players are earning is threefold over what the owners are going to earn over the same period of time.
Oh, yeah.
So as players are becoming $100 millionaires, the owners are becoming billionaires, as I stated earlier.
Yeah.
So, and once again, you're dealing with something where players over the last 20 years have evolved into just looking at themselves as just that, as just players. They're really starting to understand their power, and that's because they've looked at individuals who have come along and not reap the benefits that they should have, and seen the owners walk away with reaping benefits that, comes with the business. And the players are just trying to shift the business model. So when you when you speak of respect, you can't just put it in monetary value. You have to look at leverage and power structure. Where here. Let's use Michael Jordan as a classic example. And this is something, the media tends to always look over or not pay attention to, and fans tend to do the same thing.
Okay.
And of course the owners in the NBA or professional sports are not going to let you know this, but until Michael's last 2 years of his contract, he was the 30th or 40th highest paid player in the league.
Yeah.
40th. Now, you and I both know Michael Jordan should not even be getting a check from the Chicago Bulls.
Nope. Yeah.
The NBA should have just given him a percentage of the league.
Yep. Absolutely.
But we know that's not going to happen. So what happens is, and this is where I spoke about players having leverage and watching that increase. See, nobody talks about that, but players do. So when Michael Jordan sits down and signs Dwayne Wade to a Jordan contract, to make his main athlete, don't think they just sit around talking about gym shoes. Personally, when you get what I'm saying, when Magic Johnson is telling players, stop buying watches. When Magic Johnson tells you, I don't own a watch, I own a plane.
Yep.
When he's telling individuals, this is what you need to do with your money. So when all the time that Kobe spent there in L.A., he wasn't just talking to, Magic about, how to handle Los Angeles. Magic is instructing him on how to do this thing. So when you hear players talking about respect, it goes just beyond monetary value. They're looking at the leverage they've gained and how the leverage was not gained by those who were there before him. Because Michael Jordan, if anybody should have been, and let's talk about respect, if anybody should have been respected, that was disrespected by the money. And just from his NBA contract. We're talking about the money he made off the field. We're talking about just the NBA contract. But Michael Jordan, at the for the bulk for his entire career, except for the last 2 years he was with the Chicago Bulls, to be the 40th highest paid player in the league as current player at the time. See, players have to keep bringing up disrespect because they don't want that happening to them. Exactly. They don't want ownership of anybody else to think that they're going to fall into that same trap. No, we've evolved from that. So anytime you see a player going after a max contract and he still says he's not getting his value, that's a throwback to how the league treated Michael Jordan.
Gotcha.
That's a throwback to the conversations that they have about players when they see that, franchises are still in existence making money off the money they made them and the money they were never paid.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. So
we have to get beyond that narrative where, players are screaming disrespect and we're just sticking it to the monetary value.
That makes sense.
It goes beyond that. It goes way beyond that. Because bottom line, Dan Gilbert is going to make 3 times the money LeBron James is going to make. And guess who's making that money for Dan Gilbert?
LeBron.
LeBron James is never going to get his worth in Cleveland, let alone the NBA.
Yeah.
Let alone the NBA.
Well, and then when you get into the whole argument of like LeBron James and what he's actually doing for the city of Cleveland, I mean, he just boosts their economy the moment he comes back in 2014. I mean, that you're right. It's from that ultimately, you're 100% correct. So
exactly. Ice Cube made a great point to me one time when he talked about the Kobe Bryant and Lakers, Kobe Bryant not being on the Lakers and what the Lakers would become. He basically said, L.A. without the Lakers are Detroit, and the Lakers without Kobe are the Pistons. And, which is actually true. And you're dealing with and back when he said this was like 2000 and maybe 8 or 2009, 2010, somewhere around there. But if you think about it, there was no football team there. The Dodgers were going through a crazy, dramatic reality, situation, with, divorce, and the owners. And so there wasn't the baseball culture was gone. The Clippers this was before Chris Paul got to the Clippers.
Oh, yeah.
So the only thing the Lakers had from a sports perspective was, LA just had the Lakers. And at the center of that was Kobe Bryant because they were coming off of, 2 championships in 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
So at what point do you think Kobe was getting respected by the contract he was given by the Lakers?
Right. 100%. Hey, stepping away from the money portion of the conversation, which I know we could probably, like you said, we could talk about this all day. Guys like James Harden and Russell Westbrook, what they're doing with the league right now, from just an overall just gearing their teams up for success for basically through them. What James Harden did on New Year's Eve was absolutely sensational. I mean, I am up for saying that it was one of the greatest performances I've ever seen. I mean, I rewatched the highlights, and he was just a man on a mission that night. What's your thoughts on Harden and Westbrook and what they're doing in the league right now?
I think it's a great battle, that they're going to personally have for the MVP, and it's going to be interesting to see where Kevin Durant, comes off in the second half of the season on this, and where LeBron wants to position himself, and where Kyrie and Steph Curry are going to try to play their role. So I like the fact that Russell and James are setting the stage for how the rest of the season can be played out, and they're setting the bar very high. They're trying to separate themselves from everybody else and win games at the same time. And I think now that they have become the front runners, and you've seen Russell Westbrook have a first half of a season that we've never seen before. Yeah. And you're seeing, James Harden pull out, like you said, a single game. Wow, it sounds like this is an anomaly. He was in the, a lot of people's MVP conversation already with Westbrook, regardless of how well Russell was playing. He was still in that conversation. And to have a game like that, they're serving notice that, it's right now it's odd to lose, and we'll be damned if we're going to play down to anybody else to lose it. So I like what they're doing right now because it's generating a general, earnest, authentic, not fake, not forced conversation about who's the best basketball player in this moment right now. And I like that because as great as they're playing, they still got cats that are on their heels that are going to chase it because they haven't separated themselves that much.
Yes.
No disrespect to what happened last year, but the way Golden State started and the way Steph Curry played to jump off the year, it was his award. And plus he was the defending holder of the MVP. So the way he came out, it wasn't really a contest last year the way it was this year. This year, as great as Russell was playing and the way as great as James is playing, it's still a contest. And that's what I love about it, is the fact that, yes, those two are at the top, but we got a whole half a season to watch Kevin Durant. We got a whole half a season to watch LeBron and Kyrie might do. We got a whole half a season to say, hey, Steph Curry's like, let me see if I can go for 3 in a row. So I love that. And I love the way what they're doing is going to push other players to try to reach that level. And that's what I like the most about it.
Yeah, that's kind of my thought process too, is that those two guys, they're not just playing sensational basketball. They're pushing the rest of the league to say, hey, come on, let's go, come with us, kind of deal. And LeBron James, I mean, what he did last year in the playoffs was just absolutely remarkable, and what he did in those 3 games to finish out Golden State was crazy. I mean, I saw that you worked on stuff about LeBron James from before he was even in the league. Is that correct?
Yeah. I've known LeBron. We started LeBron. I think he was a sophomore maybe in high school when he did the basketball diaries versus Slam magazine. He was the youngest basketball diary we've ever had. I think he was a sophomore. I can't remember sophomore or junior. We usually only take seniors. Back then, we only took seniors. I think he was the youngest one. I think he was a sophomore. So he was on our radar pretty early. We kind of built a relationship with LeBron very early at Slam magazine. So, and even though that's the way we editorialize that is that, we couldn't really be in front of the player that much.
Sure.
We kind of did stuff by phone and by text and all this, that, and the other,
Right.
when they send in a copy. And I'll never forget the first time I saw LeBron play, physically, was that game against Carmelo Anthony in Camden, New Jersey.
Okay.
Right, over
Yep.
played St. Vincent's when we all left from Philly because all that game was in Philly that year. Everybody was taking buses and cars and, everybody left Philly that weekend to go down there and see that game. So that was my first time actually seeing him play. But I remember the first time meeting him, it was before his graduation, his senior year, and he was, done, and he was actually at Nike because they were going through the preliminary, workouts before his contract was signed.
Yeah.
When it became legal to do that, and I remember walking in the room, and he screamed my name, and I'm like, I've been around. I'm the one that knows this kid because he's like, he's this kid.
Yes.
But because Slam was what it was, and he'd been doing the diary of us for so many years, it's like he had already known me without knowing me.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, I know exactly who you are. Welcome into the building, and to see that and know LeBron at that age, it was great. So it's like I said, I've known him since he was a sophomore in high school, but we officially put eyes on each other, right after basketball season, his senior year. And we've been pretty, seeing each other on a semi-regular basis ever since.
His development within the NBA, though, and from when you first saw him as a sophomore in high school to now, I mean, just kind of give us a little bit of that. I know you mentioned already like what you saw from when you first started talking to him when he was in high school, but could you have ever imagined that this man could be where he's at today with the way he's played over the last couple of years, especially?
Here's the thing. The answer is yes and no. Yes, because I saw how talented he was in high school. I used to joke with Charles Oakley and tell Charles Oakley that that's his son. Because and the joke was, who else in Cleveland is going to breed a 6'8" child?
Right.
Charles Oakley, you the only one. You got your car wash in Cleveland. You from Cleveland. You know that's your son. Go on and own up and say that's your son. We used to joke about that all the time, right?
Yeah.
Because for that kid to be as big as he was, as young as he was, it was almost like a freaking nature because he just wasn't tall. He wasn't like a set. He was massive. He was you didn't see kids that big. And to see him that big and to see him that gifted, I thought physically he'd have a chance. Now, what cemented that was what he did his senior year. And if people remember, his team started off that season, St. Vincent St. Mary started off that season, I think it was the USA Today poll, whatever national poll it was.
Yeah.
They were ranked number 23 in the nation starting off that year. They took their schedule, Drew Joyce and that squad, LeBron and his four brothers. I say brothers, I mean, brothers in basketball.
Yeah.
They took that team and played, I think they played against 7 teams that were ranked nationally across the country that year. They went on a national schedule and beat every team that faced them.
Wow.
That was ranked above them that season and ended up the season undefeated number 1, even with LeBron missing the last 2 games.
Wow.
Because of the West Unsale jersey fiasco that, he got suspended for.
Yeah.
But that made me believe in him more than just his physical ability because he took on the challenge. And that's when I was like, this might be the greatest high school basketball player I've ever seen because rarely do you get to see a high school basketball player take his game and play it against the best across the country. That wasn't happening back, when Lou Alcindor was at Powell Memorial in New York. That wasn't happening when, people like Kevin Garnett and Ronnie Fields had their team at Farragut High School in Chicago and was wiping everybody. Their schedule was local. That wasn't happening when certain players were, that were ranked number 1 or the best players in the country, they didn't get to hit the national stage. Because of the way tournaments are scheduled now and because St. Vincent St. Mary was able to, because of prep schools and, because you can actually schedule make your own schedule from a local to a national level. And because ESPN was involved and started televising LeBron's games when he was a junior, there was public interest there and they were able to do that. So by the time he graduated high school, I really did believe that at that size and him taking on everybody and getting to see him against the best talent in the country, that he had a chance to be what he is now. Now, what I didn't expect was for him to continue to get better and him to not fall victim of his own talent. Usually, when we dub somebody or a player at that age is dubbed the chosen one at 17 years old, and we blast him on the face of Sports Illustrated and peg him as the next greatest thing ever, 8.5 times out of 10, probably 9, they're going to fold. They're not going to be able to take on that pressure, and a lot of that has to do with us in media. We put these cats on pedestals that it's almost unfair for them to have to live up to over the course of their career.
Right.
We did it with Ken Griffey Jr., and he kind of lived up to it barring injury.
Yeah.
Right. He did. Now, he was one of those child prodigies that were like, oh, he's going to be the next great,
19
whatever.
years old, hitting homers in the middle.
Right, exactly. So it's like, and that's a hard thing to live up to, but he did it. For the most part, we did it with Tiger Woods. Yep. And until, his life started to fall apart, he kind of did it. Yep. No disrespect to baseball or golf, but, what we put on LeBron, I think was a lot heavier because of the way the NBA is. And the one thing that Ken Griffey and Tiger Woods did not have to chase was somebody like Michael Jordan.
Right.
Somebody whose shadow was still in existence.
Yep.
Whose legacy was still cemented. So we hadn't even gotten a chance to overcome a Miss Michael.
Yeah.
To start speaking of LeBron in that breath.
Yeah.
So for him to live up to that and not fall victim to that is my no part of that answer. Because you couldn't have told me of anybody, I don't care how great they were, could have lived and survived that. There's no way LeBron James should have been able to survive the pressure that was put on him to reach that level and sustain that level.
I think
from a talent standpoint, yes, but other than that, I didn't think he was going to do it.
I think also the most sensational part about it as well is that LeBron James came into the league when we had guys like Shaq, Kobe, Allen Iverson, Tracy McGrady. You list them off, guys who were just bigger than life. I mean, really, in the NBA. And LeBron comes in and just does his thing. Yeah, he was a rookie, but a couple years in, and then by the time he gets to 05, 06, he becomes the man. I mean, that is just mind-blowing at the age of, 21, 22 years old. And then what in 07 Game 5 against the Pistons? I mean, that was when you were like, okay, all right, we got to sit back and just shut up at this point, because look, people talk about Klay Thompson's performance in the Western Conference Finals last year and Steph Curry, what he did last year. I don't care what you say. When you score 29 of your team's last 30 buckets, and about 4 or 5 or 6 of those shots are game-tying buckets to keep you in it, and then the game winner, I'm sorry, and he's at the age of 21. Okay?
Yeah.
Like, that's all you got to know. Like, that's when you're like, okay, we're watching greatness.
Yeah, the kid, here's the kid, but that's Magic Johnson. That's Magic Johnson, his rookie year in Game 6 in the final. 42, 17, and 10, whatever his crazy stat line was, and playing center.
Yep.
And Magic was, 19 when he did that? 20?
Yep.
So you're like, okay, we're seeing this dude is official. He is officially official. And, and the thing that I can tell you that I know firsthand is the other thing he had to deal with that nobody really talks about is at that stage is when he entered the league and how much pub he was getting, how many players were gunning for him.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I talked to players, some of the players you mentioned, that were like, oh, they're giving this kid all this hype. All right, wait till he gets here. We're going to go after him. They were waiting for LeBron to come into the league because all the hype that we had given him. Like, we had anointed him the golden child, the chosen one. And like, oh, this kid going to get, real cats, all-stars. Like, for real, we're waiting for him. Like, all right.
Yep. And
come to find out over the course, like the first 2 years, like, okay, he's not going to be as easy a takedown as we thought he was.
Yeah.
He's really, they didn't, a lot of them didn't know how good he really was. And then for him to live up to it, it's unbelievable. So, to me, and like, he did some things early on in his career to let you know that he was going to be that dude. And to me, I still am amazed at the fact that he hasn't really been caught up in anything. Yes, he does have his flaws. He's not perfect, and he lives in a world where he is almost forced to be perfect, where in the past that didn't exist because, there wasn't a social You know,
Back then when he was getting in, there was no social media.
To monitor your every move, right? To monitor your every move, but at the same time, you know, I don't want to put this on all social media and all social communication that we live with, you know, and put it on that because you as an individual, i.e. LeBron, is responsible for playing a role in that too. You can not be a part of that. You know, you don't have to be a part of that, but you choose to be a part of it, so that comes with the territory. You know, you could be like a Denzel Washington or Tim Duncan and still do your thing under the radar, and nobody cares. So, you know, I don't want to blame it all on social media, but to be under that spotlight and not get caught up in any real drama, you know, earth-shattering, you know, career-ending, career-threatening, Tiger Woods, you know, sponsor, you know, money-losing drama over the course of 13 years is amazing. You're not supposed to be able to sustain that, you know, and the fact that he has and really hasn't jeopardized first his brand, but second and more importantly, who he is as a human being is amazing to me. Is amazing. Now, I don't want to get long with it, but I want to give a complete answer on this.
Okay.
If we're talking about his greatness, we also have to keep in mind that there's a caveat there, and it's a very brilliant caveat that I give credit to Shaquille O'Neal doing. I think LeBron has followed his platform. You know, he's followed that to a blueprint. And that LeBron, since he left Cleveland the first time, has made sure that he's played with who was one of the other best players in the league besides himself. So he went to Miami and played with Dwayne Wade, and Dwayne Wade was top 5 player in the league when he went.
Yep.
He came back to Cleveland knowing who Kyrie Irving was.
Right.
Knowing that he's Kevin Love there. You know, if you look at Shaquille O'Neal's entire career, at no point until the end, he was never not playing with one of the other best players in the game. At LSU, he had Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf, who was Chris Jackson at the time, who at the time...
Penny Hardaway, Orlando.
Penny Hardaway, Orlando, right? Who did he go to after that?
Kobe.
Huh?
He went to Kobe, right?
Went to Kobe, right. All right, yep, went to Kobe, right? And who did he go to after that?
Dwayne Wade.
In Miami.
Yeah.
Who did he go to after that? Did he get to Paul Pierce in Boston?
Yeah, something like that. He rode the train.
Something like that. Right. But no, but what I'm saying is that Shaq was very smart at making sure that whatever island he was going to play on, it wasn't going to be an island by himself. And I think LeBron James, because he got drafted by Cleveland, and loved that story, that was cool. But once he left there, he took the Shaq route. He was like, I'm never going to be on an island by myself to do this. And I think that's smart. And I think that's brilliant. But it also goes to us speaking to his greatness. You know, because I think that's a calculated move. I think it's a very smart move. You know, people will criticize him for that. But I also think, you know, the way he's played this out, that has to be mentioned because that's a part of how he's been able to be so great so long. Because without this, here's the difference. If he doesn't do that, then we're not talking about LeBron and the Michael Jordan conversation. We're talking about him and the Allen Iverson conversation. Yeah. And he was always on an island by himself the entire time.
That was my last
His whole
question.
career he was on an island by himself, you know, and that's, you know, I think he's playing it smart.
That was my last question, Scoop. Before we get you out of here, who is better, LeBron or MJ?
I don't think that's his thing. I don't think he should be in that conversation yet. And I think he's you know, in the top 10 conversation. But I always answer the question with this question: tell me when he passed Magic Johnson to jump to the Michael Jordan conversation.
I thought it was after this last series between Golden State when he came back down 3-1 to the potentially 5 minutes before Golden State became the greatest team of all time. I mean, 73-9, they almost beat again back to back. I mean, you got the unanimous MVP. I mean, in my opinion, without those 5 minutes, 88 tied at 88 between Golden State and Cleveland in Game 7. I mean, you get a couple baskets here and there from Golden State. They're potentially the greatest team of all time. LeBron James found a way to get it back to that point, and then he found a way to just end that block at the end of the game. I mean, all of these scenarios So
that put him above Magic for you.
For me.
Okay. See, I'm on the thing that I'm not on the stat driven thing, but
sure.
I'm still looking at the the fact that the Jordan LeBron conversation happened long before that Game 7 last year. And ESPN was a major part of starting that conversation because we deal in generalizations, and we deal in contrast and conflict, and we deal in debate. So we begin arguments and conversations before I believe they even supposed to start. So I like your answer because I can thoroughly agree with your answer because it is an authentic answer and it is a realistic answer. But you know as well as I do, this conversation of LeBron James being in the Michael Jordan conversation started way before that. It started years before that. So I'm always asked, when the hell did he pass Magic?
Right. No, yeah. That's why.
I'm talking about somebody that got, 3 MVPs in the Jordan era.
Right.
And 5 championships. 5, which LeBron still hasn't reached yet.
Right. Oh, I know. Hey, that's my thing. It's the top 3 players all time, in my opinion. It goes LeBron, MJ, and Magic. And honestly, outside of that, if maybe you throw Kareem in there, obviously, and then Wilt maybe might jump in there a little bit. But outside of that, it's like those are the 4. Like that's it.
Right, and I get that. But I'm always in my book. I'm still at the pay. Well, I don't know when. I'm still trying to get to the fact when he passed Magic, like a couple of years ago when the whole conversation started. I think you make a great point about how he played and how Kyrie played. You can't forget what Kyrie did.
Exactly.
But because he made us remember, that he should never have been out of the Steph Curry conversation to begin with. He's
Next
like, let's go back to game one. Let's go back to game one.
A 15, exactly.
Right, in game 1 before I got hurt, and how I blocked that shot. I made the same block in game 1 before I made in game 7. And if you look at my stats in that game, I was tit for tat for the MVP.
Yep.
Don't forget about me. So Kyrie played his way into that too. So it wasn't, to me, as great as LeBron played, in the last 3 games of that series, Kyrie needs to give him something too because he did his thing.
Absolutely.
But, I can't honestly say that I put LeBron ahead of Magic right now, but right now, to me, he's in the Magic conversation.
Okay. That's a good answer. Scoop.
But 2 years ago, he wasn't. And we had him, and I'm like, when did you leap past, how do you forget about Magic?
Right. Yeah. No, I got you.
Yeah.
Scoop,
so
thank you so much.
I'm right now in the LeBron Magic conversation and not in the LeBron Jordan conversation. That's the best answer I can give.
That's fair. Hey, Scoop, thank you so much for coming on. We're definitely going to I want to have a conversation next time about Kyrie and Curry because that's the conversation we got to have next time. So thank you again for coming on, man.
Anytime, my man. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you. We'll be back on the other end with our conversation piece between Mark and myself. Thanks again, Scoop.
All right, no problem. Thank you.
Cause some don't agree with how I do this. I get straight and meditate like a Buddhist. I'm dropping flavor, my behavior is hereditary. But
Whether it's a monster dunk,
LeBron James with no regard for human life.
an insane shot,
Westbrook. You gotta be kidding.
the greatest block of all time,
Back to Iguodala. Up for the layup. Oh, blocked by James.
or another crazy Curry dagger.
Curry way downtown. Bang! Bang! Oh, what a shot from Curry.
The Lead has you covered. Go to NBALead.com now.
NBA Lead will be your ultimate destination for up-to-the-moment expert commentary on all trending NBA topics and headlines. The digital broadcast network will offer hours of live content, plus more than hundreds of on-demand videos each week. It provides news, highlights, live look-ins, our own analysis, music, and conversations from around the NBA world. Moving at the speed of Twitter, it pushes from headline to headline, topic to topic. When all said and done, NBA Lead will bring the fans what they want, when they want. NBA Lead, for the fans, by the fans.
...2017, everybody. Episode 17 here on the Hoopers Log, Tuesday, January 3rd, 2017. Man, that was a long segment with Scoop Jackson, but it was, I tell you what, Scoop is a guy, like he said himself, I could sit there all day and talk to Scoop Jackson about basketball, man. That guy is passionate, Mark. I love that guy.
Yeah, that was a lengthy conversation, but it was interesting though. Like I caught myself listening to it and not really doing my job out here producing, and I caught myself just listening and agreeing with a lot of things he said. But no, you're right. I mean, it was lengthy, but none of it was not interesting or fun to hear him talk about or the stories he had to tell. I think he had a lot of good points and. So what? We can do whatever we want.
Absolutely. Hey, we got no deadlines here. We got no timeline. Come on now.
Exactly.
Mark, the one thing I wanted to talk about with you when you came back on the show was talk about the CBA. I want you to kind of go through some of the things you've noticed through the new CBA that got signed about 2 weeks ago, and the one that it'll run through what 2023, 2024.
It's a 7-year extension, so that will be 2024, 2023.
What are some of the things that you've noticed that you like, dislike, whatnot? I read some of it, and to be honest, it's really confusing for me, and I know maybe for you, you've read through a little bit of it, and it makes sense to you. I wanted to kind of pick your brain at what you thought about it.
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of good things about what they did. Some things are they're the same. I think probably the biggest things that people are talking about is the BRI is still the same, which is the for those who don't know, is the basketball revenue income that they generate, and they split as a whole from the owners and the player side. It's still 50-50. I know there are some things that are included in the revenue that were not included before. I want to say it's like it's like player fees or something with like video games, some other things that weren't included before that were going straight to the owners that are now being split. So basically, the last lockout we had, the players had 57% of that revenue, and they had to go down to 50 to get the deal done. And so after that, what happened was this year they kept it the same, but they included more things to split, if that makes sense. So yes it's still 50-50 technically of what they're splitting, but there is a bigger pie to split from the players and owners, the players and owners side. So that didn't change, but what they are splitting changed. I'm not sure exactly on everything they're splitting. It's very finite, and it doesn't really matter. It matters is that they're getting about, I think I want to say, 1.7 billion more things to split that they did before. Something crazy like that. The other big thing that I think is crucial and is huge for going forward is we have now 17 roster spots. We are going from 15 to 17, which is a big deal. I mean, a lot of times, especially when you have people like the Grizzlies last year who played 28 players, you have to constantly either cut people or there's a hardship waiver you can apply for, but you have to have 4 more players hurt for a certain length of time for you can get that hardship waiver to have another roster spot open up. But you have a lot of times where you have guys that are getting healthy and getting hurt, and so that's big. And a part of the roster thing is that we are now getting 2-way contracts with the D-League, which is a big deal. I don't hear a lot of people talking about that as much as they should, but it is a big deal. And what that means for those who don't know or who do know, basically you can sign a player and just have them play in the D-League, basically. Before it was kind of, you could do it, but it was weird. And that player can go back and forth as many times as we want, just kind of like they have now. But also those players are now getting a huge pay raise, going from like $20,000 to like $75,000 in the D-League. Which is a big deal because a lot of those guys are going overseas and making the same amount of money, even though they don't want to. A lot of those guys, they don't want to go overseas and live in a different place and raise their families in China and make $75,000, but they have to because that's what that's their job. And so that's a big deal, keeping players here to have a much more stable of talent, if you will, to choose from if you're a team. To just go pick a play, because you could just go, you have a player in the D-League and you have so many more people staying home and making the D-League much more of a minor league system.
Exactly.
Which I think has been a failure on the NBA's part for a very long time. It's not, you can take a lot of things the way Major League Baseball does their minor league system, and it works out great. And the NBA has seriously failed on their part to make that system not the same, but at least manageable. At least, before even not even 2 years ago, you had teams sharing D-League teams, and it was weird.
Right.
I don't know if teams still do that or not. I know the Grizzlies have their own team. They bought it, And so they it is their own, and that is it. And I think there's a lot of teams that are going to that scenario where they have their own D-League team. So those are the kind of the nuts and bolts of the contract of the new CBA. Those are the big points. The one and done rule is still in effect if anybody still cares, but it's still age range is still 19.
Right.
Let me look over my notes over here. I don't think I see anything else. The other biggest thing is that the preseason is now going to be shortened.
Thank God.
Yes. So we will play less games that don't matter, and the actual season won't be longer, but it will start earlier because so many people complain about how long it goes into June, and because once you get into the playoffs, they last for 2 months. So
2 months.
Easy 2 months.
Yep.
And so we're going to start the season earlier. It doesn't say by how many games they're going to cut back. No, it says preseason games are only going to be 6 games. I don't know if we played 8 or 10 this year. That's about it. I mean, there's some other things in there that are cool. I think are good, are beneficial for teams, but I don't think they're worth mentioning. I'll put it that way. But those are the big things, and I think a lot of those points are really interesting. Because it allows the biggest thing is the roster, the movement, and the way the D League is set up. Those are big points for teams that are struggling or have people that are hurt that can really it benefits them the most. And there are a lot of teams like that every year that do that.
Yes, the Pelicans you mentioned it, the Grizzlies. Definitely those type of teams. Last year, the Grizzlies for sure. The Pelicans last couple of years, the injury system would definitely help them out a lot. I like your idea of the minor league structure like baseball, like for basketball. Because here's the thing, people. Basketball, before it got all glamorous and whatnot here over the last 20 years prior to the MJ and even the Larry Bird and Magic era, before then, basketball was a blue-collar, get your hands dirty, get gritty type of game. I would love to see the NBA set up like minor league systems in places like, where I live. Like we have a minor league baseball team right down the road for the Seattle Mariners. I would love to see a minor league basketball team in like Federal Way, which is just north of Tacoma and about 20 minutes south of Seattle. That is a gritty, hardworking place, or like in the There's a hockey team in Kent, which is literally like 5-10 minutes south of Seattle, and that's like the big industrial area here in Seattle. If they had a minor league basketball team there in some giant warehouse that could fit like 10,000 people, I can tell you this much, that would be an unbelievable the crowd would be crazy. People could afford to go. It would be like old school basketball, but it would be a minor league system to get young guys get used to the nastiness of fans and get used to what it's like to play professional basketball at a tough level, and they get paid well, and it's a good environment. I just think it would be a sensational idea for the NBA to dig into.
Well, the biggest thing is the payment. Do you know how much the lowest paid D-League player makes? Do you want to guess?
I would say
on a yearly average, yearly income.
Yearly average. I would say lowest is about 20,000 now.
It's 19,000.
Yeah,
that is worse than minimum wage jobs at some places. Yep. That's terrible. It really. I mean, I understand it's not a big deal, but it is kind of a big deal. I mean, it is you are a professional basketball player in some aspect, and you should be paid at least. I think when I started in television, I made like $25,000 a year. I mean, come on, like I think that equated to like $10 or $11 an hour. I mean, they're getting paid less than $10 or $11 an hour, basically. That's crazy.
Mark,
it's insane.
I drive a truck at work, and I make about $32,000 a year here in Pacific Northwest. I mean, hey, guess what though? That $19,000 that qualifies you for like welfare and big time tax
It's crazy.
Returns. Like that's good stuff. I mean, hey, you get a tax return though. I mean, think about that. Signing your taxes as a D-League basketball. No, I'm just kidding. But no, the point is I think it is great to know that now they're raising the salary level for those D-League players, and also giving more incentive for guys to not go overseas to then play this game back in the seas, and also have a chance to have that dream kind of in front of them, to have that chance to at least play professional basketball, NBA basketball, and have that opportunity. I think the NBA does need to gear into that baseball mentality of having more minor league teams across the country so that they can travel. Not have it like crazy. Have like a Pacific Coast League, have like a
Right.
South League or whatever. Stuff like that. But like having it so that you can have that environment for these guys and also have them get paid well and actually make somewhat of an average living. And also it'd be kind of cool, like I said, you have them play in like a place like Kent, just south of Seattle, which is a hard industrial area in the King County region.
Yeah.
Have them play, have tough crowds, and they can relate to the fans because they actually make the same amount of money as the fans. That'd be awesome.
No, I agree. I mean, the biggest thing is that it allows your NBA team to develop your prospect.
Yeah.
And it is your prospect, right? I mean, you don't have to sign them to a contract. That's the biggest thing with the two-way contracts. You don't have to sign them to a physical roster spot that that eats into your salary cap. So
Yep.
you can sign your prospect and they can make money and they can keep them for yourself while you develop them. So like instead of now, I don't think you'll see a whole lot of you won't see a whole lot of draft and stash anymore.
Yeah.
You'll see a lot of draft and okay, we're going to draft you and sign you to a D-League contract. You're still our prospect, but you can go make the same amount of money you're going to go make in China.
Sure.
But be here, and if we feel like you're worth a guaranteed contract, we'll give you one. I think that's the biggest thing. It's a huge deal for teams to allow to develop players at a younger age and allow them to get paid, like you said.
You know who likes this idea the most? It's those San Antonio Spurs guys who do all this recruiting overseas in Europe. Now they don't have to fly those outrageous miles just to go and recruit some 7-foot dude to bring over to the States. They love that. They love that idea that we're bringing up, Mark. I know they're listening to our show heavily intently. So
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Let's get back to some basketball funness, shall we? The Kemba Walker pulled a swaggy P. I heard you saw that, and you sent that across all of us.
That was the best thing I've seen in a long, long time. It was so funny. I feel bad because I love Kemba Walker. I think he's great.
Yes.
But
Yep.
that was hilarious.
Yes.
When I first saw that, I had to text as many people as I knew to make sure they saw that because it was awesome. I mean, it was the best. I don't even know how. That's the only way I can explain it. It was so funny. I laughed. I still laugh every time I watch it. It's immediately in my GIF album for future use.
I think the best part about it is that when Swaggy P did it, clearly he like turned around just before the shot really went in.
Yes.
Kemba kind of waited, and then it just barely lipped out right at the last moment. It like bounced around the rim a little bit, and then he turned around and I was like, oh man, he's gonna get GIF forever. Like that's just crazy.
It's never going away. It can never go away. It's great.
No, it is great. It's fantastic. Also, some real conversation though, real quick. Atlanta seems to be shopping Paul Millsap. They're also talking about potentially shopping a guy in Kyle Korver and other guys, maybe Thabo Sevolution. They got some guys they're trying to shop away. Do you think Atlanta's just trying to get rid of some guys there, Mark?
No, I mean I understand. I understand why they're doing it. I mean it's purely business. They are afraid these guys are going to walk because Atlanta's just they may not want to be there. They may want to. In Kyle Korver's situation, he's an old guy. Not many years left. What if he wants to go chase a championship in Golden State or in Cleveland or wherever you might think you might go? So it's at this stage in the NBA, it is purely normal. All they're doing are just taking calls. And you always do that.
Yeah.
You always take calls, no matter what year, no matter what anybody says. If someone calls, you always take it. It's just the way the NBA works. So I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I think there's some truth that Paul Millsap will go. Maybe not so much Thabo, and maybe a little bit more. I think if Millsap goes, Korver's probably going to be a piece in that deal because he's an older guy, doesn't have a whole lot of years left, but he could still shoot the ball. So there's my son that just walked in.
Awesome.
But so I think that Kyle Korver is going to be a piece in the Paul Millsap deal if he goes. So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, there's really no telling at this point. Like I said, you have to shop them. You have to. It's just what happens. So, at this point, they're just taking calls, and we'll see where they go. I hope they move Paul Millsap somewhere so he has a chance of doing something else. I mean, I think the Grizzlies will take him. I don't know.
Yeah, the Grizzlies will take a lot of guys, but
That's for sure.
Yeah. The Memphis, I want to talk to you about the Memphis Grizzlies. I know it's been a long time since we've talked about the Memphis Grizzlies, but Russell Westbrook in Memphis, I believe it was last week sometime, he got ejected in Memphis, and then I think it was the next night, the Memphis Grizzlies had 17 threes on Saturday. What's going on out there in Memphis? And is everyone starting to get on, not the bandwagon, but is everyone starting to get excited there in Memphis that this team's starting to turn into a real team again?
Yeah, I mean, it's. I just broke my son's heart. He's supposed to be in bed, and he came out. And I just told him he had to go back to bed. Anyway, the ejection was weird. It was kind of a game where Westbrook just wasn't really into it anyway. I mean, he was getting so frustrated. I honestly think by that time the ejection came around, it was just more like, I don't want to play this game anymore. So let's just get this over with because I don't want to be here. The Grizzlies defense was just, I mean, they literally threw everybody. They basically said, Russell Westbrook is not going to do anything. Someone else beat us, and no one else could.
Right.
So I won't say that they gave a lot of other teams a game plan, but the biggest things the Grizzlies did in that game against Russell is they doubled a lot. They came at him with different looks, and the other biggest thing is they got back in transition. There were at least 3 guys back at any point to stop him from scoring in transition because the Thunder are not a half-court team at all.
No.
At all. And so that was the biggest takeaway is that they really got back, and they would not let Westbrook get ahead of steam and score the basketball in transition. So that was I won't say they gave a game plan, but it worked. And the tech was just, I mean, he had a lot of, I think he said BS like 15 times. I think it was like a couple F-bombs. But it's not really anything that's not said in an NBA game, really. It was probably just the way he was like aggressive at the ref. That's probably what it was. I mean, I think they'd already told him to be quiet a bunch of times. So it was probably frustration, and he wanted to get out of the game. Over the weekend, they had a bunch of 17 threes. It was crazy. I think the 3 balls is a big deal for them. If they can find it consistently and shoot 12 to 13 threes a game, which I know doesn't sound like a lot to most people, but for the Grizzlies, that's a lot. I mean, they've never done that before. It changes the game a lot. It changes the game completely for that team. So I know they win a lot of games when they shoot more than like 11 threes, which is crazy. And it's really opened up how Marc Gasol has performed this year. I mean, it's changed Marc Gasol from a post player with a 15-foot jump shot to a legit three-point threat. So I don't know. We'll see. I don't know what it tells right now. I don't know because we don't know what the consistency can be with the 3-point shooting. Yeah. I don't know where it goes. I mean, hopefully for the fans' sake, it goes well. It keeps trending in the right direction. But we'll see.
I'm excited for the Grizzlies because they're one of those teams that I believe that if they get everything clicking, they have the depth to compete and make a long run into the Western Conference playoffs. I mean, they do. I mean, people talk about, the Warriors are great and the Spurs are great and this and that. Well, both those teams, and I'm a Spurs fan, I'll till the day I die, but they don't have the depth to go far. They have a very young team depth-wise. So do the Warriors outside of Andre Iguodala and Sean Livingston. But the Memphis Grizzlies have had the same team for the last 5 years, and that team has been together through thick and thin, and they're going to be definitely tough to deal with come postseason time if they put together a run. So that's kind of the thought process there. Mark, we've had a long show. I want to ask you one thing. I know. I wanted to ask you one thing before we get out.
Yes, go ahead.
George Karl, what is your thoughts on this bonehead ripping into everybody in the NBA right now before he goes?
I think it. I think there are a lot of stories that you tell that people are probably cool with, like, hey, we're out here doing this, and everybody probably has already told that story before. If that makes sense. Yeah. Like, they're telling a story and everybody's probably already heard it, or someone's already told it. But he's really, I think he's crossed the line into where you gave your coach a certain amount of trust that you had with him. And I know a lot of those guys treat that locker room like a family, and that's legit. Just because of there are a lot of things that go on There are a lot of things that are said. There are a lot of things that happen that are like, hey, look, all right, we knew this happened, but let's not let it get out to anybody else. Because let's just
Right.
This is between us. I mean, it's like I have 2 older brothers who used to fight all the time. And the biggest thing that happened, my middle brother would do something to me, and his first reaction was, oh, don't tell mom. Don't tell mom. Don't tell mom.
Right.
Don't tell mom. And that's kind of how it is. I mean, something will happen. It's like, hey, let's just not tell them. Let's just not tell anybody. And it's more of an understood thing now. And so I think it's really gone to another level. I think it's probably broken a lot of people's trust. And it's all for the greed of money. And that's great. I mean, I think if you can make a tell-all book and make it a bestseller or whatever it is, then fantastic. But he's probably burned a hell of a lot of bridges in doing so. And he's a laughing joke to everybody in the league now. And that's the problem, is that every media outlet, every coach, every player is talking about him, and they all are saying that we're all saying the same thing. It's a joke. It's gone too far. A lot of the stuff seems not even true, or not close to the truth, or somewhere around it. I'm not sure. So I would say that's my answer on that. Is it went way too far. He broke a lot of people's trust, and the problem is that he's getting paid to do it. That's the problem. I think a lot of people were, if you're like, all right, if you're just telling the story on the air, hey, this one time this thing happened to us, but nobody's benefiting from it. But you're getting paid to this book, and you're spilling your beans. A lot of people that had trusted you in some of these aspects. Yeah. And I think that's the real problem with it, is that players trusted him, and he broke their trust just to make a buck. You know, I don't know. I find it kind of gross, but that's just me.
I'm in the same boat as you, Mark. That was a long episode. We
was.
promise that this won't happen again, unless Scoop would love to talk for a longer time. I love Scoop, by the way. That was an awesome conversation. We just know that we have a clock to go by, and that clock was destroyed. We also destroyed the clock on this thing, and so it wasn't just Scoop, it was us too.
Well,
anyway,
at a certain point, it doesn't matter anymore, does it?
You're right. Hey, you're right. Once you get past like 30 minutes to 40 minutes when you're in a conversation, you might as well just talk for 3 hours. It doesn't matter. But it was great. It was an unbelievable conversation. We love Scoop. We love Scoop. Have him back on one more time down the road again. We'll talk more about the current NBA and whatnot there. Episode 17 is in the books. Episode 18 will be on Thursday, January 5th, 2017. Thank you again for listening, everybody. We'll be back. We'll talk college basketball on that next episode, and we promise it will not be as long the next time. Have a good and happy New Year, everybody. We'll be back here for the rest of 2017. Have a good one.
This has been the NBA Lead Podcast. Follow us on Twitter at NBA Lead. Find us on the web at NBALead.com or on iTunes.